On this episode of Fly Fishing Unfiltered, we teach you how to catch more steelhead by learning to read river gauge height and discharge using free websites and apps. Hey everyone, David, Northwest Fly Fishing Outfitters, coming to you with another Fly Fishing Unfiltered. Today I'm joined with the one and only Colby.
Thank you.
And we are super excited to be talking to you about steelhead today. Specifically in regards to steelhead, we're going to be talking about river flows. We're going to talk about understanding when is a good time to fly fish for steelhead, looking at river gauges and understanding river flows, and when is an optimal time to fish. Now, Colby, steelhead fishing tough?
Yeah, it sucks.
It sucks. I'm sure you're glad that you got it, man.
There's highs and lows.
And highs and lows. Would you say or agree that when we go and swing flies for steelhead, that we have probably chosen one of the most difficult ways to catch a steelhead?
100%.
100%. So would you also agree, I feel like I'm interrogating you, but would you also agree that any tool or resource that we can have that gives us maybe an upper hand would be a good thing?
Yes. Short of an 8-ball, magic 8-ball.
Or sticks of dynamite.
Or dynamite.
Yeah.
Or a gear rod.
Yeah.
Yes. Having tools can definitely leverage us to take time off when we should be taking time instead of fishing it when we shouldn't be fishing it.
And so one of those tools that we want to talk about today is, again, river gauges and understanding when optimal times for fishing should be and could be. So what we're going to do today is we're going to share a screen with you. We've made sure we closed all those questionable tabs down and got just to the meat of what we're looking to do here today. We're going to cover exactly what we look for when we're looking at gauges. Colby's going to walk us through as a guide what he is looking for. So we're going to break free of that. And then we're actually going to talk a little bit about any apps that we use that we are partial to. What we're going to be doing is using some websites, but then we're also going to talk about some apps. So Colby, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's talk a little bit, first of all, what is the difference between gauge height and the velocity, and why do we care about that, and should we care about both?
Good question, David. So when we're looking on some of these websites, you'll notice there's gauge height, and there's discharge or cubic feet per second, or cubes if you want to be lazy. And essentially gauge height is there's a gauge at a location, be it whichever river you're looking for, and the gauge height for that spot is pretty arbitrary.
Okay.
Right? So on some rivers, it might like normal flow might be 11 feet. Mm-hmm. And that's a really poor metric because it's only appropriate to that river and that gauge and that spot where the gauge is. Learning to read a river in discharge or cubic feet per second gives you a much better way of transferring the quantity of water from one river to another. So let's say if I'm on the Grand Ronde on this fall, which I won't be, but it's like, 500 to 600 CFS. I can easily, since I was there, I know what that looks like. I know how much water that is.
Gotcha.
And so I can read another river, and if it says 600, well, I have an idea of how much water that is.
That's a great point.
Gauge doesn't transfer river to river.
Gauge is specific to a river. So, for instance, if I'm out wading, I'm on the Clackamas River. We'll use that as an example. And there's a lot of our viewers that walk into the Clackamas, walk into the Sandy. There are certain times where maybe getting out to a rock or wading out to a spot, you would look at that as what's my gauge height at, knowing I can walk out at this height and get out to that rock.
Correct. Yeah, and I would say gauge is not necessarily appropriate for that. I mean, like either one will do.
Okay.
I think the point I want to make is that if you can default to reading in cubic feet per second,
great.
That will transfer to more places.
Okay.
But if you are a one river person, then learning gauge is fine. I mean, most of the numbers in my head historically have been gauge height, like, it's 13 feet on the Clackamas. It's go time.
Okay.
And that's helpful because it's a smaller number.
Yep.
I'm not good at numbers. So, but learning like, it's 2,500 on the Clackamas, that's something different. So just reading a graph, you have two options. I would say if you're going to default to something, default to cubes, cubic feet per second, discharge. Okay.
So let's go ahead and jump right into discharge and get an understanding what we're looking at. help us understand when a good time, optimal times for steelhead fishing would be based upon discharge.
Great idea. So I have a few tabs open on this laptop. I believe screen recording is still going. I don't have a way of telling. But there are two main websites that you'll want to check. And the two of them are the USGS, United States something other. But yeah, you have the federal one, or like the USGS one, and then you have NOAA. And both of them will offer different things. And I will use both during my guide season. I think for historical data, USGS has more data within it. I believe the NOAA only goes back so far. But I like the forecasting ability, depending on your river, that NOAA can offer.
So again, let's capture those. USGS is one site and NOAA is another site.
USGS
NOAA is not necessarily allowing us to do it is allowing us to do a forecast. USGS, we can look at historical data. Mm-hmm. So having both of these, if you're not going to go the app route, you're probably going to want to have some quick links to both of these.
Correct. And again, I think USGS has more data and you can do more with that data. It's a very complex tool, so it can be somewhat intimidating to poke around. And I think NOAA might be a little easier to read off the bat.
Both of these are created for scientists, essentially.
Yes.
So they're not exactly the most user-friendly.
It's really not.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, the Magic 8-Ball would be great.
If you love Excel spreadsheets, you're gonna love these.
You're gonna love shifting through data.
All right. Well, let's jump into the discharge and give us a look at what you're looking for.
Perfect. So we're looking at USGS right now for the Estacada gauge on the Clackamas River.
Okay. And
it's showing the last 7 days. And you'll see some discharge differences. It's bouncing between, let's say, 600 to 700 CFS. For those of you watching who live in Portland, we just got a little bit of rain, so at the tail end of the graph, you'll notice a minor uptick.
Yep.
And that's just more rainwater will collect when we get rain. And it's also worth mentioning, the Clackamas here is what we call a tailwater.
That's great.
It's below a dam. On other rivers, let's say the Sandy, there is no dam, so it will operate differently, and that river will hold or release water differently after a rain period.
Right.
But really, what we're looking for when I'm looking at these graphs is what is the current flow. Some of these graphs, like right now, we're on the Clackamas specifically, it's very low.
Right.
Very skinny water. And so those fish are only going to sit in certain spots, but also more importantly for those with boats, some sections are going to be harder to navigate than others with less water in it.
Yeah.
So having a threshold to know when you should row and when you should walk, or which, in some instances, like for those of us with different boats,
I'm
going to look at the gauge and be like, oh, it's definitely a raft day.
It's a raft day and not a drift boat day. Yeah.
Or just knowing which sections you can or can't float depending on flow.
Okay.
But the big thing we're looking for with this anadromous migratory fish is their main prerogative is to come and spawn. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, the summer fish are going to linger for a while, but what they're doing is those fish are smelling their natal waters where they were born. And so every time we have fresh water coming in, that kind of like dissipates or puts in some scent on those places. And so they track that and they follow that up. And having more water benefits that. So we're looking for a bump in the graph. A bump gets fish moving.
That's great.
And fresh fish typically are easier to hook than ones that have seen a million flies and know better. So I'm looking for a bump.
So since we're looking at discharge right now and taking into thought that maybe someone listening to this is brand new to this, when we're talking bump, we see all these different peaks and valleys on this graph. And what I want to make sure that people are not hearing us say is every single time you see that occurring, they need to be looking more at the linear flow of discharge of this river. And so as you were talking earlier with our recent rain, which wasn't, torrential downpours, but with our recent rain, you can see this upward trending line overall.
Yeah. So on that note, another website you should be checking, or at least is the weather. What does the weather look like? How much rain are we going to get tomorrow?
This is Portland, though. The weather forecasts are not exactly the most reliable.
No. They're all subject to change.
Yeah.
And I should mention that as well. If I go over to the NOAA side, there is a forecast, and it shows just the most basic of bumps.
Yeah.
Which is, in essence, a good thing. That means more water.
Right.
But to David's point, we may not get what we think we're going to get, or we might get more than we thought we got. So there have been numerous times last winter, and this is more definitely a winter thing when we're getting a lot of rain. But knowing when to hit that river is a gamble based on the forecast.
Right.
So, I do like fishing the bump, whether that's an uptick or a downtick. I do like those things. It's just when you start to see Everest on the gauge,
right?
That would be a time where you're probably better off at home tying flies, duck hunting, doing honey-do lists, and waiting for that drop. And some drops, depending on weather, again, will be sharper. Also, if it's an undammed river, the drop will be sharper. Clackamas is behind
by
the
sharper
dam.
Meaning we're going to flush through that system a lot faster.
You're going to watch it go high,
and then it's going to come down real fast.
Yeah. So I would say typically, because the Sandy is undammed, the windows are smaller because it'll start to flatten out.
Yep.
And it gets stagnant again. And I would say always go fishing. That's always the answer. You're not going to catch them from the couch. But if you're trying to maximize the days of going out, try and fish the drops before it bottoms out and flattens out.
Okay, that is very good. So, for instance, on the Clackamas, we have had a little bit of a bump, and our weather forecast over the span of the next couple of days is rain forecasted.
Rain,
again,
cover,
not
cover,
torrential downpours, but enough where we should start to see a bump in our rivers.
Yeah.
This stretch right here that we're seeing, this little bump, it's a very small bump.
It's tiny.
Is this enough to get fish moving?
Yes, to some extent, yes.
Okay.
Will I say it's going to be all out blitzkrieg? No.
Okay.
I think we're going to need more rain for that.
Okay.
We're going to need a bigger bump. Maybe a few days of heavy rain. That would really get things moving.
Okay.
But as a general rule, if we see water coming in on these gauges, fishing the uptick is good, fishing the bottom is good. Those are best times for you to take the day off work or whatever it is to try and leverage that versus going out in bright sunshine.
Okay.
Generally a better trade. All things, this is it's all variable. And that's the hard part. And I did pull up a tab of this
is
past February. Yeah, this is historical data. This was back in February. We got a big rainstorm. This is on the Clackamas. And this is between February 4th and March 11th.
Okay.
And it shows a much steeper hill. So that means we got a ton of water.
So we're talking this peak right here, right?
This peak here, yeah.
Okay.
It even got into minor flood stage.
Okay.
That's what that yellow line is.
The yellow line is our flood stage, correct?
And now this is in gauge height.
Yep.
Feet. So 18 feet is, again, a pretty arbitrary number. But I know over time, 18 feet's way too high.
Right.
For Clackamas, 14 and less. 13's a great gauge height. But if we switch this bad boy over to CFS, then we'll get the same graph, but it'll be in different notation.
Right.
And you'll see that the river actually blew up past 10,000 CFS, which is a significant amount of water.
That's trees flowing through.
That's brown water, that's trees floating by, not a good time to be on the river.
Yep.
But once it dropped down into that 5,000 range, I think it's go time, especially getting into 3,000. Those are all great numbers.
So as I look at this, you said on the rise and the fall, right? Mm-hmm. So as I'm looking at this massive bump in February, and I'm shooting across linearly speaking, 5,000 CFS, and you can see right up here at the top for those of you looking at the screen, is that moment in time.
That day could have been okay.
But maybe
overnight, done.
Right. But then this next bump down, as it's on the downward side, would you say that that's a better time to fish? Is on the drop, clarity wise, we're starting to have improved clarity. Okay.
Yeah, the fishing the bump in the beginning is generally, again, depends on how much rain we got, but it's generally a shorter window. That could be half a day. That could be a day. On the coast, it could be a couple hours.
Sure.
Right, depends on how much water and how much water we get at once.
Right.
But the opposite side of the hill, the downward side, that tends to be a much longer window for it to come into shape.
Okay.
Again, depending on rivers.
So again, sorry to cut you off, but spikes will happen faster. Again, on a tailwater, it coming back into shape will take longer to get there, typically speaking.
Yeah, it takes longer for a river to come back into shape than it will to blow out.
Gotcha.
And sometimes you can catch a fish or two on the up. It depends on how long that window is, but I would say if you're going to choose one, and that's much harder to take a day off if you got like a 1 day notice, a 2 day notice.
Yeah.
But if the river blows out significantly, you can kind of forecast to be like, all right, 3 days from now, it's probably in a fishy shape. Oh, it's a Thursday. I'm going to call in sick. And it gives you a little bit longer to plan for that.
Not that anyone here is suggesting
I do it
anyone
all
should
the time.
be calling in sick.
All the time. And then the other thing is on the tailwater versus a regular freestone. And speaking of windows, let's say when the Clackamas blows out, it is going to blow out and it'll stay blown out longer, and it takes longer to come in because it's below a dam.
Okay.
So with the Sandy not being below a dam, it's going to blow out, but it might be back in shape the day after, maybe 2 days after. It's a much shorter window. It's going to clear up much faster. And as a good angler, you should be able to maximize that first. Know that it's going to clear up first. Hit that for a few days.
Gotcha. It's good.
And then once the Sandy starts getting a bit too low, a bit too clear, you jump back over to the Clackamas, and that's in the middle of its descent.
Yep.
And you can kind of
Play
time
both.
it. You play both.
Yeah.
A good angler should play both. And ultimately, if you want to be really effective, you bring in the coastal stuff.
Yeah.
And that adds way more options. And so you can be very strategic as to like, hey, everything out here is blown. Let's go to the coast, or let's go here, let's go there. And the coast is its own entire different drainage.
Yeah.
And there are rivers within the Tillamook area, like this one will clear literally the next day. This one will clear out in a week and a half. It takes forever.
Right.
So it all just depends.
That's where getting to know these rivers, and again, we don't want to just focus on Oregon rivers because we know there's a lot of...
These are all just examples.
Yeah, I mean, I just got back from the Skeena. These are the exact same kinds of things that they're looking at. So these are just examples of rivers that we're fishing. I want to talk to you briefly about discharge and turbidity. Is there a direct correlation between the two, so typically speaking, in most rivers? So as I see this spike, as this is coming up, should I expect the water clarity to be diminishing, typically speaking, at the same time?
Correct.
And is that a good thing for steelhead fishing, turbidity? Is there a point of no return in turbidity that you see?
Yeah.
And so kind of walk me through what that is. Is there visibility that we're looking for?
Visibility and turbidity. There are some graphs in here, and that goes down its own little rabbit hole in terms of like turbidity numbers and what have you. But generally, yes, on a bump or a peak, would you say peaks and troughs?
Yeah.
On a peak like that, you can expect dirty water.
Yeah.
On a very steep, high peak, it's going to be brown town. It's going to be blown out. It's not. It's unsafe at some places.
Sure.
But yeah, as the river descends in flow, usually that is a correlation with turbidity.
Okay.
And to that extent, when a river flattens out and it's no longer getting a lot of fresh water, it usually means it's very clear
All
as well.
the sediments are already starting
Correct.
to drop in the river. And
Correct. Yeah. So, and that's something an angler will develop over time. But I would say turbidity is our friend to an extent.
To an extent.
Right? I mean, like, I want to step in the river, and if I can go to my knees or my hips and still see my boots, I think you've got a pretty good chance.
Okay.
If you step in and you're at your shins and you can't see your boots, that's going to be harder to fish.
Okay.
They're still in there, but it's going to be much harder to have that confidence, for sure.
Okay. And so then again, looking at this graph right here, this is a historical trend.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you said like 5,000 CFS is great for the Clackamas. Let's pretend this isn't the Clackamas.
Sure.
Just pretend this is some random river right now. And we see this right here, kind of this peak at 3,000 CFS. And if that's its normal kind of high water mark, as we see kind of this downward trend here, this is kind of like optimal.
It is. It's fishable. It's just the lower down you get on the trough, and then when it starts to flatten out as a general pattern, like
this section right in here,
it's going to be tough fishing. It's going to be low. It's going to be clear. Those fish are going to be pressured. They've seen everything.
Okay.
We're not getting as many new fish. Those fish are kind of stagnant. And like I said, they're almost like desensitized to the novelty of those flies or lures.
But then we have this next. In this case, we have this next peak.
Yeah.
And as it's on the rise, since getting interjected back into the river system, these fish are probably going to start moving up the system.
Bring them up, yeah. And it's not a huge peak, so we can possibly assume turbidity is fine. Because you can, and again, it's different between summer and winter.
Sure.
And like how much water have we had recently? Has the ground absorbed that? We're not going to get a whole lot of runoff because it's already wet.
Yep.
That brings in the different stuff as well. But yeah, usually if it's not a crazy high peak and it's a good bump, I'd say go out there, get some. Should be good.
Anything else on these particular graphs that you want to call out? Anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, with NOAA, and depending on your phone app and what have you, for some rivers there will be a forecast.
Okay.
The forecast is a gamble.
Especially out here.
It really,
it's the only job that you can be wrong 90% of the time
and still have a job.
Don't make a lot of money doing it.
I've looked at forecasts and been like, oh, it should be good. And got there and we got half the rain we were supposed to get. I've even gone out there and it'll peak, but we'll be, it's going to go up a little bit and it'll be perfectly fine. And within 3 hours we had logs floating down.
I think I'm going to jump you here and say that the caveat too, before we jump into the forecasting side, is take it with a grain of salt, maybe.
Yes.
Don't trust it. Don't be the person, don't be the angler who's sitting on your couch going, damn it, the river probably actually was in great shape. So if you get that day off, don't always let the weather forecasts and the river forecast be enough to be like, oh, this is a definite no.
Yeah, very easy as a human to be able to talk them into or out of anything. So to some extent, if you think it's going to be good, do it.
Yep.
If you think it's going to be bad, maybe not do it. But if there's a chance, still do it.
Still do it.
I've gambled, so it's a gamble. That's the caveat. It's totally a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
And I will generally take the gamble almost every time, because there will be days where you're the only boat on the water.
Yeah.
There will be days where there's only a couple and everything, the planets align and you get 2 or 3 fish. I say generally take the gamble. Now,
those are usually
I have an easier job to take the gamble.
Yeah.
Not everyone can step away from a wife and 3 kids or a huge job.
Yeah.
And so these tools allow you to kind of plan for that a little bit, more so in the winter. Summer, it's generally like, did we get rain? Great, go.
Right.
But in the winter, these are an asset.
And so when we're looking, this is, I believe we're on NOAA's site right now.
This is NOAA, yeah.
Yeah, so we're on NOAA's site. We have kind of this forecast here. Doesn't really, I think,
it's hardly a bomb.
It doesn't really paint the best picture of showing that. But if we look at this forecast down below here, we can see what appears to be a forecast of a small bump.
A small bump.
Not anything major, but maybe in this case,
it could help.
A good time, especially in summer where we're dying for water right now.
Yeah.
And there's fish in the system. I was on the Clackamas and I'm wading in spots that, normally I'm up to my waist and I'm in my shins in water.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a lot of grabs, and there are fish that are just, I think, sitting in those spots, just kind of waiting for that bump to move up to the next level.
They totally are. They totally are.
So a bump like this, I look at this and I get a little excited. What day is this saying this bump's right here? This is next couple days.
October 2nd, October 3rd.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
And so I'm gonna
go
hopefully
fish.
go fish in that time frame and land a few steelhead.
Yeah. I would like to mention also, these are an asset to have. You should always be checking with the gauge height, what the discharge is.
Yeah.
when you're in a certain spot and it fishes really well, you
Yep.
should know that number because you can come back to that spot at that number. And on the flip side, if you get into a spot and it doesn't swing very well and it needs more water, well, okay, cool. Now I know not to fish this spot at this height. I know to fish this spot at this height.
Yeah.
It gives you a very good set of personal data to be like, okay, it's on the Clackamas, it's raining, I'm gonna hit this spot, and this spot because the flow is just perfect for this.
Yeah.
And it's too high for this spot or too low for that spot, and it's gonna make you pick spots smarter.
Which is a big thing in our rivers for steelhead, honestly. Like when I was up at the Skeena, we were swinging half-mile runs, and it's just like, hopefully there's a fish moving through that system. Whereas our rivers, we're looking, as we covered in some of our previous videos, we're looking for buckets, spots where fish are holding. And this, again, kind of goes back to my gauge height. I know, like, for instance, the Dog Creek area, there are certain times where I'm like, I'm not getting out to the spots.
It's gonna be really pushy.
Right. So that's fantastic. I think we're going to talk here in a second about apps. I think one of the apps that I have found very useful, because I got a lot of crap going on in this brain up here. It's not a very big brain, and I fill it full of all kinds of crap.
It's the Notes app.
Yeah, it's the Notes app. I have actually turned over to one of the apps that I know you guys as guides use a lot, and that's OnX. And what I actually love about OnX is I can pin a point. I can take a photo of that point, because I will literally forget a spot that I fished the very next day. I can take a photo of that, and I can put a note on that. So if you go to my OnX, you'll see photos of the Deschutes. And I will have my exact gauge height. I'll have my discharge. I'll have all those notes in there. So even if I'm prepping for a trip, I can go, that spot's going to hold a fish, because I know based upon previous data.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
And I'm assuming you use either your notes or OnX to take.
It's all up here, baby.
Oh, geez.
It's all up here.
We're all screwed. We're all screwed.
But no, they should have those notes. That is useful information. You want to fish smarter, aka that's my business name.
Yeah.
And as we get into the winter, the days are very short.
Yeah.
So you only have so much time, and so you have to maximize what little time you have.
That's
It gets dark
very
at 4:30. So fish smart.
Fish smart.
And use that data. You should be building up that notes of yours and really kind of adding in those data points, and that'll make it super useful.
I mean, even if you go out with a guide, right? When you're out with a guide and you happen to have a great day, you should be making notes of that. Whether
Absolutely.
it's mental, whether it's in your notes. Don't please take your OnX and tag every single guide spot. Make mental notes of that and come back.
That's what they pay for.
OnX is a very powerful tool. Like I said, I have a hard time keeping all this stuff at play in my mind. And even using these websites, when we all first started steelhead fishing many, many years ago, this is all we had, right? Was to look
I had
at these
it bookmarked
sites.
on my phone.
Yeah.
Yep.
But nowadays, through the invention of this wonderful tool, since we're talking about tools, we have some opportunities outside of OnX. What app are you as guides using? Is there one app? Or are there multiple apps? And if it is one, what is the one app that you would recommend to our listeners and subscribers that they should have?
Gotcha. There's one that I've used the longest. It's called River App.
Okay.
It's a kayaking app, which is kind of weird.
Bizarre.
But it gives me the details that I need. It allows me to bookmark certain gauges, certain rivers. I can look at a glance. I can look very minute. River App is the one that I end up using the most. And I just started using another one called On the Water.
On the Water? Yeah.
That's another good app
Yep.
from friends of the shop and friends of mine.
Yep.
Yeah, I use that River App one a lot.
And all these are allowing you to do forecasts. They're allowing you to look at all the things that we just looked at on this
Correct.
site.
Some of them are, I think, On the Water, or not On the Water. I think River App requires a minor subscription.
It does and it doesn't. So there is a free version that allows you to go into some parts of it, but it's not going to open up the entire platform of what the app is capable of.
It's worth it. It's like one time a year. It's worth it.
$6.99 for a year.
Yeah.
So skip that beer at your local pub, and you can pay for an entire year's worth of the subscription.
Absolutely.
It is definitely worth it. It also allows you to save all your favorites, which you can't do in the free version. So you can have all of your gauges specific to the rivers that you want to fish. It will send you alerts, which is something that I really love. Like this summer when we were trout fishing and we were doing Clackamas trout, and we got to that kind of critical temperature levels, we're like, this is really not wise. You can set a reminder or set a notification like, hey, if it bumps up over 66 degrees, I want to know, so I know that it's no longer
That's nice of
a
you, yeah.
good time to be fishing the river. So it's not worth skimping. $6.99. I'm not sure
an
what
easy
on
one.
the water is, if they have a free and a
It's
paid.
free and tiered, but it's a great app as well. It offers more, I think, than the River app does. River app is literally just flow and sections. On the water offers a whole lot more. Awesome, great app. I've just gotten used to using River app. I have all my favorites. I scroll through them as a glance.
Yeah.
It's very, very useful.
Okay. Anything else as we wrap this up on river flows and turbidity that you want to share?
I will say, depending on weather, some rivers, specifically the Sandy, I'm looking at you. Once we have our winter and we start getting into maybe spring, you also have to start accounting for snow melt. That one is not literally rain related.
There's no forecast for that one.
Yeah, well, you have to look at the freezing elevation.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And so you have to get used to that as well. But that's a March, April problem.
But it's a real problem as we talk about flows, and I am going to do a video on specifically trout fishing and river flows, and that snow melt, whether it's the Deschutes or any other river that is fed by glaciers, you're going to have the same issue.
Account for it.
You got to account for it. You got to look at it and be like, oh man, on the Deschutes River, White River is probably going to blow. Mm-hmm. It's 80 degrees in the mountains.
Yes.
Probably going to be puking some mud. So it's important in the steelhead world as well.
Another piece of data
taken into consideration. So anything outside of that?
Go fish.
Go fish. I mean,
that's the big one.
The reality is these are tools that we're trying to bring to you all, not to discourage you to fish, right? And for me, fly fishing is all about therapeutics. It's getting on the water. It's getting away from sometimes life struggles and challenges and finding some peace on the water. And you're not going to get that sitting on your couch watching your favorite sports team while your kids are yelling in the background.
Yeah.
And so we're not trying to discourage you from going out and chasing steelhead, but if we're really about the opportunities to have the potential greatest success, we can refine this down and really kind of whittle down to some times where we could expect to potentially have better
chance
success
than any old day.
Yeah. And so again, thank you for tuning in to Fly Fishing Unfiltered. We're here to try and provide you with these kinds of tools and these resources from guides like Colby. By the way, I always like to do a shout out for my guides, Fish Smarter, as Colby covered earlier. Colby is an amazing guide. He's guiding the Deschutes. He's guiding the Clackamas. He'll guide the Sandy during the winter months. He's going to be doing some coastal stuff this year.
Stuff. We got Klickitat, we got Cowlitz, wherever you want.
We're really a fly shop that branches out. We don't get stuck in one river, which is important, as Colby identified earlier. If the Clackamas is blown, maybe the Sandy is in shape, and that's why you have guides like Colby. So if you're looking for a steelhead trip, if you're looking for a bass trip in the summer months, if you're looking for salmon fly, trout, Colby, Fish Smarter, we'll have all of his contact details in the description below. But again, thank you for tuning in to Fly Fishing Unfiltered. Yes. Colby, thank you for being a part of this and helping us. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button and tune in for upcoming information.
Smash that subscribe button.
Smash it.
Namaste. Thank you much.